What if one of Chelsea's most valuable assets isn't sitting inside Stamford Bridge? It's here. At Cobham, Chelsea built one of football's most productive academies, a system designed to find young talent, develop it, and sometimes turn that talent into millions. But to understand how a football academy became a business machine, we have to go back to where it started. Before Cobham became the operation it is today, Chelsea's youth system looked very different. The facilities were modest, the pitches were unforgiving, and the academy was far from the powerhouse it would eventually become. Then Chelsea's ambitions changed, and so did the investment behind them. When Roman Abramovich arrived in 2003, Chelsea began investing on an entirely different scale. That included Cobham, a state-of-the-art training complex built not only for the first team, but for the generations coming behind them. Chelsea wasn't simply building better pitches. It was building the infrastructure for a talent pipeline. But an academy is only as good as the talent it can find. Chelsea built an extensive scouting network, searching for promising young players before they became household names. Because at Cobham, development didn't begin on the training pitch. It began with identifying potential earlier than everyone else. Once those players arrived at Cobham, the real work began. Chelsea created a development system capable of coaching hundreds of young players through different age groups, all competing for the same dream, a place in the first team. But there was a problem. Chelsea could develop far more talent than the first team could ever use. Chelsea's solution became famous across football: the loan army. Instead of leaving talented youngsters on the bench, Chelsea sent them to clubs across England and Europe, sometimes dozens of players in a single season. They gained minutes, they gained experience, and crucially, they could gain value while Chelsea still controlled their future. And this is where the system became clever. Chelsea didn't need every prospect to develop at Cobham. A player could spend a season somewhere else, playing competitive football every week, while Chelsea tracked his minutes, performances and development from home. If he became good enough, he could return to the first team. And if he didn't, his development could still create something extremely valuable for Chelsea. And this is where football development became a business model. Inside Chelsea, a young player wasn't only measured by goals, assists or first-team potential. There was another question: what could this player eventually be worth? Contracts, loans and development all became part of the equation. Because even if a player never became a Chelsea star, he could still become a very valuable Chelsea asset. Eventually, some of those players reached the final stage of the system, the transfer market. Chelsea could keep the very best, loan others again, or sell when their value was high. And once academy graduates began attracting serious transfer fees, Cobham was doing more than producing footballers. It was producing revenue. But the real power of this model becomes clear when you look at the players Cobham actually produced. And eventually, Cobham began producing players who could prove the system worked. Mason Mount, Tammy Abraham, Fikayo Tomori, Reece James. Some became important Chelsea players. Others built careers elsewhere. But together, they showed that the academy wasn't just producing prospects anymore. It was producing elite footballers, and increasingly, very valuable ones. And ultimately, the dream was still the same. Develop a player at Cobham, bring him into the first team, and help Chelsea win. For the few who made that journey, the academy offered something money couldn't simply buy: players who understood the club before they ever stepped onto the biggest stage. But strangely, the players Chelsea sold could sometimes become just as important to the business as the ones who stayed. And that's where the numbers get really interesting. And here is where Chelsea's academy becomes especially powerful financially. When a club buys a player, that transfer fee is recorded as a cost and spread across the length of his contract. But an academy graduate is different. Because Chelsea didn't pay a transfer fee to sign him, his value on the books can be extremely low. So when an academy player is sold for tens of millions, almost the entire transfer fee can be recorded as profit. That is why producing your own players can be worth far more than simply saving money on transfers. And that model didn't disappear with the previous generation. Chelsea continued producing young players capable of making the journey from Cobham to Stamford Bridge. For an academy graduate, reaching the first team can transform his value almost overnight. Every appearance, every breakthrough season, every international call-up can make an asset develop for relatively little increasingly valuable. And when Chelsea eventually decides to sell, that is when the economics of the academy become impossible to ignore. And Chelsea didn't stop there. The money generated through developing and selling talent could be pushed back into the next generation. New prospects, new investments, new opportunities. The names changed, and the strategy evolved, but the principle remained remarkably similar. Identify talent early, develop its value, and decide when the time is right whether that value belongs on the pitch or in the transfer market. And the strategy has continued to evolve. Chelsea are no longer only developing players who grew up at Cobham. They are also investing heavily in elite young talent from around the world, trying to identify tomorrow's stars before their value explodes. It is the same principle on a much bigger scale. Find potential early, give it time to grow, and build value before the rest of football catches up. But behind every investment is still a young player chasing exactly the same thing, a chance to make it. For the player standing here, none of this is about accounting. It is about the dream. Playing at Stamford Bridge, wearing the Chelsea shirt, becoming the next name to come through. But for Chelsea, that dream has become something else too. A system capable of producing talent, creating value, and generating millions. That is the business of Cobham. And more than 2 decades after Chelsea began building it, the production line is still moving. If you love football stories, subscribe. The next story begins soon.